Alright, we're going to keep working on the 425. So, since the last video I posted, I've gone ahead and gotten the hydraulic valve out. I have also pulled the wiring harness out. The wiring harness is pretty easy. It's just a matter of pulling the little clips out of all the frame and everything. Not all that difficult. One thing I did do to help out, because the wiring harness runs through this opening right there, I went ahead and loosened up. There's a couple of bolts that hold that on right there. Went ahead and loosened that up. Looks like the dash cluster itself might not even, or the dash tower itself might not be any good by all those standards. And that crack right there in the hole for the nut or the bolt. And so anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pull the steering wheel off. The steering wheel is you just pull the cap off. There you go. Pull the cap off, pull this nut off, and then we'll see if I can get it off with a rubber mallet. If not, I'll have to get a bearing puller. My next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drop the transmission or the transaxle out. So to do that, I've already disconnected the brake mechanism right here. And so the next thing to disconnect is the foot pedal mechanism. The foot pedal mechanism comes up here to this pivot right there. I was going to try to get a video of how the mechanism works. Unfortunately, I just don't have enough light in this part of the shop. I haven't upgraded this part of the shop to LEDs yet, so I just don't have enough light, and it's not daylight outside. And I am trying to get this machine taken apart. That way I can have this space back for my truck, because winter is actually finally arriving in the Midwest next week. And we've had an extremely warm fall so far. And winter is finally arriving, and I think it's supposed to be -2 or -6 sometime next week. So just ready to get this apart, and just go ahead and get it out of here. That way I can park my truck in here. Got a couple other things that I need to do as well, because nothing worse than getting in a cold truck in the morning. But anyway, I'll go ahead and drop the transaxle out. And in the end, I may not actually take the dash tower out. I don't know if I will or will not, just because I'm not sure. Then I'll go ahead and drop the front axle. That'll be at some point. I'll probably do that. Probably just make all this one video, because it'll be pretty simple. So that's how we're going to do it. And then I'll roll the frame out of here, and we should be good to go. So get this out of here. And then in the spring, I may come back and grab a few more parts that I can't grab right now, just in an effort to get it out of the garage. So, and then we'll start working on the engine, taking the transaxle apart, taking the engine apart, and then we'll after that we'll move on to our next project. Okay, we have a frame free of a transaxle. Not really difficult at all to get the transaxle out. It's more or less 4 bolts that you have to pull out of the frame right here. There, tip of my foot. There's just 4 cap bolts that go into the axles, and then also you have to disconnect all the linkages. Now the linkages include, obviously, well, I'll show you on here. So the linkages include this right here, which is the brake. This is the parking brake right here. And then this over here is the input for the forward and reverse pedal, or the swash plate. This is the whole assembly here. This damper right here, the dampener right here, what it is basically it slows the movement back and forth. I can't actually move it with my hands. But this is a K91 transaxle, tough torque transaxle. Pretty substantial piece of aluminum. It is aluminum. It is not steel, or most of it is aluminum. The case is aluminum. We'll go ahead and actually we'll tear this down over the next several videos. I'll get this out, get the wheels off and everything. Probably how I'll do it is I'll do some of it just like it sits. I will go ahead and get the tires and wheels off of it. It is easier, since the tires were flat, to leave it sitting here. Now over time it will actually rotate backwards or forwards, and it'll end up on the ground. But I will go over all the main parts in terms of charge pump, etc., etc., and we will go from there. Now, so that is the transaxle. Now, one big thing everybody talks about, and I just noticed this, even though I'm going to show you a tractor that I haven't been in a video yet. So I mentioned when I first got this machine that I was going to use it. I was going to use this axle to repair an X748 axle, rear axle. Well, let's look at this rear axle right here. This is the K91. Hopefully my flashlight, you can see it well enough. No damage to it whatsoever. It's a good looking axle. But now let's transition over. I told you I was going to replace an axle on an X748. Well, this is that X748. There is the axle housing. Clearly that does not look good at all, right? I am like the 4th or 5th owner of this X748. Big problem with that is the frame is twisted, and so I don't trust it anymore. So we're actually going to do the same thing with this X748 that we did with the 425. Take it apart piece by piece, and you can see how twisted the frame is in there, and I don't think you'd ever get the frame straight again, or at least straight enough to trust it for anything, not wearing out tires really quickly, etc., etc. But the reason that I wanted to show you this is everybody says, oh, they use less metal over time and blah, blah, blah. Look at the housing on the X748 with the K92 compared to the K91. If you look right in this area right here, I want you to compare that length of bolt. Now it's held on with a bolt and a nut, like that. And then we'll look back over here and we'll look at that 425 with the K91, and you see that's not near as substantial as the X748. I think that's pretty impressive. And so it kind of, it goes to show you when people start talking about, well, it's lower quality, etc., etc., when in fact, if you actually start looking at it, it's not. For instance, the design change on the differentials between the K91 and K92 is pretty substantial in terms of strength. The K92 has a lot more steel in it than the K91. There's a couple other differences between the two transaxles in terms of the charge pump. I think charge pump and flow. I'd have to go back and look at all the specs. But anyway, so I'm going to put this off to the side on probably just a furniture dolly or something, and we'll come back to it probably in 3 or 4 videos. It'll probably take a couple weeks before we actually get to take this apart. In the meantime, what I am going to do, let me turn my flashlight back on here. Hopefully it's bright enough. I'm going to go ahead and take the... Ooh, something's wrong with my flashlight. I'm going to go ahead and take the rear lift cylinder off. Still going to do that. And I'm also going to take the front axle off. And then all I've got to do is undo the hydraulics. And then I'm going to flip the entire thing over and get the power steering valve out. And then I will call it good. Got to look into a couple things. And in terms of the dash tower and everything, just not good enough to really justify taking the dash tower off and trying to sell it. So the whole thing, I may take some of the pedals off and stuff in the spring, but not right now. Well, here are the remnants. Completely empty frame, or mostly empty frame of a 425. You can see the front axle sitting on the frame there. You got the tie rod right there. And then you have the spindles, the front tires, and all the hydraulic cylinders and everything I still need to clean there down there. So all total, take apart this 425 took me about 6-7 hours working on it off and on. So a couple things that I wanted to show you as I was going through things. So a lot of times you can see this machine's got some hours on it, because you can see the wear in the steering shaft. And so actually there weren't very many good parts there. Everything pretty much in this assembly was pretty well worn out once I got into it. Pulled off everything that I could think that anybody would want, and so I broke the reverse pedal. That was kind of sad. The frame rolled over when I took the front tires off. But that's it for right now. We'll come back to this when I mostly got this for the transaxle and the engine. That way we can kind of dig through those and hopefully do a comparison of an Onan and a Kawasaki, and then we'll look at the 15U Sunstrain with the Peerless differential compared to the K91. So anyway, that's it for this video, and thanks for watching.